Hello, and welcome to The Connection. This podcast is about understanding and building the connection we have with others and with ourselves. I hope that through this podcast, you will be able to have more joy and fulfillment in your life. I'm your host, Jared Hurst. So today I want to talk with you about walls. And this may be a very interesting podcast episode because honestly, I have not sat down and outlined anything. I'm doing this completely from the heart, and I'm doing this in an emotional time for me. I honestly don't know if anybody is going to hear this episode. So if you're hearing this episode, I have somehow put together the courage to release it. The reason I want to talk about walls with you is because this is something that has been on my mind lately for a number of different reasons. And I'll tell you the last reason here in a little bit, but I'm going to start from the beginning and move forward. I've been in this 21-day challenge, as I've mentioned a couple of times, and it's been so pivotal in my life. I have wanted to embody a version of myself. I don't want to say a higher version of myself or a better version of myself because really I believe that if we want something in our life, it is because it is an authentic part of who we are. It's just a different version, allowing us to access parts of ourselves that maybe we repress on occasions. Well, I've wanted to be this version of myself that I have been in the past. There was this 2-month period of my life where everything flowed, where I had all of my walls down. I was as loving as I wanted to be. I was as gregarious as I wanted to be. I was as enthusiastic as I wanted to be. Like everything just flowed out of me. I didn't hold back at all. And I won't go into the details, but through the process of this 2-month period, all these things got attracted into my life. All of these things came into my life. But over the course of 6 to 8 months before and after this, I got hurt at a really high level, both from a friendship and from a relationship. So at the beginning of this week, I was on part of this 21-day challenge. And as part of that 21-day challenge, the question that was posed to me was, what is one fear that if you could release it from your life would make the biggest impact in your life? And when I started this 21-day challenge, I made the goal for myself that the purpose of this challenge was to help me reach this version of myself that I hadn't been able to access since about 2 years ago. And when I started to explore why, what was the one fear that was holding me back from accomplishing this embodiment that I had been struggling for? Because I've had moments after this 2 months of where I constantly felt this way, where I constantly had these walls down. I've had moments where I've been able to be there again, but it's been fleeting. And when I explored my fear, I realized that it was loss of connection. That this fear of losing connection was the biggest thing holding me back. And when I looked at that, I realized that it's because I had put up walls because of these experiences I had. Because I had this friend that had stabbed me in the back, because I had this relationship that abandoned me just days after having thought that this was going to be my person. I had put up walls without realizing it, subconscious walls, and those walls were keeping me from basically being the man that I want to be. Because every time I started to be that man, I think somewhere in the background it said, you're going to get hurt. So that came to my mind earlier this week. And the reason I decided to talk to you about it today is because about an hour ago, somebody that I was dating told me that they didn't want to date me anymore. And I can't believe how much that hurt. It surprised me. I couldn't believe how much emotion I felt and how much connection I had there that I wasn't sure of. The thing is as I started to date this person, I realized that I had walls. I had walls that I had put up. And I think I had felt these walls over the last 18 months of my life. Every time I went to date somebody, I struggled connecting with those people. Because I think on some level, I had these walls up because I was scared about getting hurt again. I've talked about this before, but I've been what I'd call an anxious attachment style, which, long story short, is somebody that fears about losing connection with others. And I'd become mildly avoidant. Avoidant somebody that when they get close to somebody, they push them away because they don't want to get hurt, which is something I'd never felt before, something that I'd never really dealt with. And when I would get close to somebody, I would push them away or I wouldn't connect because, it was a protection mechanism. I was trying to keep from getting hurt in relationships. And with this woman, I had started to let my walls down. And I'd started to allow myself to connect and feel again. It was the first time that I had been around somebody in 18 months that I could actually see myself having a future with them. It's the first time that I allowed myself to entertain those ideas or those thoughts. And I don't regret it. The reason I want to talk about walls today is because we have different walls that we put up, whether that's in a romantic relationship, whether it's in platonic relationships, whether it's in work, whether it's with our spouse, with our children. We have walls that we put up in order to protect ourselves. And one of the things that I've realized is that it is important that we learn what walls we are putting up without realizing it. What subconscious walls are we putting up in our lives? Because walls are there to protect us, but they also keep people out. And so that's where boundaries come in. Is a boundary is different from a wall. A wall protects us, but it keeps others from getting to us. Where a boundary is like a filter. It keeps the things from getting to us that are going to hurt us. But it lets in the things that are good for us. And I think that's the solution with walls. Is that we have to let our walls down and then create healthy boundaries in order for us to feel safe letting our walls down. Because we recognize that those boundaries are going to allow people still to get close, but still allow us to be safe to know that not just anybody is going to get in. And this person that I let in was such a good thing for me. There were so many times where I felt triggered, and there's so many times where I was dealing with emotions that I hadn't dealt with in a long time. And it gave me the opportunity to learn how to settle myself, how to calm my emotions, how to work through internal conflict, how to regulate my emotions with other people and have them help me through those issues. And it helped me to implement a lot of things that you just don't get to implement any other way. There's certain healing that can only happen when we're getting triggered. And I got to heal a lot of things. In a lot of ways, it felt like the first time that I was in a relationship where I was in a healthy space. I've been in relationships with healthy people, but I think it's the first time that I was really handling things in a healthy way. And yeah, it hurt. But the thing is, that's life. Life has pain. Life has difficulties and challenges. But it's worth it. It's worth it. There's this quote that I heard from Matthew Hussey, where he said, "We do not have to be the perfect version of ourselves in order for somebody to want to be with us. If somebody chooses not to be with us, it's not because we just weren't good enough. That if we had been our best version, that person would have stuck with us. The right person can see your faults, but they can also see your potential. They can see your shortcomings, but they can also see who you are as an individual, how you're growing, how you're developing, how you're changing, and they can see the projection of your life. Now, that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with that other person. Just they may see all of your potential. They may see everything about you. This person, I really believe in this person. And they're somebody that I hope that I can continue to keep in my life because I think she's incredibly intelligent. I think she's hilarious. I think she's got a good heart. And I believe in her. I really, really hope that she finds happiness in her life. I hope she finds the right person for her. But sometimes the puzzle pieces don't fit together. Sometimes those pieces sure look like they fit together. They're the right color, they're the right shape, but there's just some little thing here that makes it where they don't fit. And that's okay. We're all in a giant box full of puzzle pieces. And some people, we look at them and we're like, we are definitely not the right puzzle piece for each other. You're on the other side of the puzzle. And some people we meet and we're so close. We're so close to being the right fit for each other, but we just aren't. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with us. If you're struggling in an area of your life, I know I'm talking a lot about relationships right now, but if you're struggling with a loved one, like a family member, if you're struggling in a place in your work, let's say that you're going out and you're applying for jobs and you're not getting the job that you want, or people keep turning you down, or whatever that might be. Make sure that you don't have any walls that you're putting up. Sometimes we're not getting the thing we want is because we have a wall up that we don't realize that we have. I'm a strong believer that life leaves evidence. There is evidence in our life, and if we look for it, that evidence can teach us incredible things. As we become aware of the patterns that we see in our life. And just like in relationships, when that job doesn't work out, that's okay. It wasn't the right puzzle piece. But make sure that the reason that things aren't working out in your relationship, in your friendship, in your job, isn't because you're blocking the right thing from coming into your life. Be open. Open your energy. Open your heart. Create boundaries to protect yourself. And then give everything you have to give. I know that somewhere there is a woman who is absolutely thrilled. Absolutely thrilled that I'm hurting today. Because that means someday she's going to meet me. Somewhere there's a job that is ecstatic that you didn't get hired because someday they're going to hire you. Someday there's a friend that you're going to meet. It's going to change your world because of the things that you've gone through. Our trials don't define us. They make us into who we are. And when you look back at your life, you can either have regrets or you can see how you chose to rise up through the hard times, to grow, to develop. And one day you can be grateful for those things if you choose to make it so. I believe in you. I know you can do it. Until next week, remember that you are not alone.